Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. I love you all. My name is miahtheking, and hey, have you ever wondered why the Scarecrow won an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called MiAh or Civilization 7. Or rather, it came out yesterday, and I'm just getting to it today, which is why no one is watching, but whatever, I'm here now. Civilization 7 was developed by Firaxis Games and published by 2K, released not in early access and selling for $70. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Civilization games are turn-based grand strategy games where you take control of a leader of a certain legendary, epic, well-known civilization that is either in power currently or was a major power sometime in our history. You guide and improve your civilization over the millennia and guide them into a certain victory type depending on the game options you chose beforehand. Make war, play politics, or isolate yourself and focus on your culture. Just find a way to win and make it happen. A notorious game that started the whole just one more turn craze of games where you simply just have to have one more turn, which eventually turns into 1,000 more turns and you end up staying up until 2 hours before you gotta go to work. I mean, hey, we've all been there. Now, before we go deeper into the review, I just gotta get this out. I am never, ever going to buy a game a week or two early on Steam for $100. It is never gonna happen. I think it's bullcrap, and for those poor souls out there who fall for it, I'm sorry, but please stop doing it. You'll save yourself some time, money, and stress. And they released the game a day earlier than previously proclaimed, which is also why this video is a day late. I thought it was coming out today, not yesterday. But that's not why you're here, and if you haven't left already, then you know, hey, thanks. You've got the patience of a saint, and I really appreciate you sticking around. So, let's finally get into it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So up first for the good was the sound design. I really liked it. The music was nice and calming, but also matching the civilization and the mood, as well as the general theme or tone of the game. The sound effects were also really well done. The ambiance, the voice acting, the clashing of steel on steel, everything in the sound design was just really, really well done here, which in my opinion is a very important part of video game quality. So, good job on the video game quality, guys. Next up for the positives is the production value. It's pretty legit here, and what I mean by that is the animations, the attention to details, the ability to explore, expand, and a unique way to approach every situation each one may have, with lots of depth and things to experience and explore. The cutscenes, those are really nice, the animations are nice, and more, which I'm going to go into next. So the next positive point is the gameplay, but this will also be in the negative, so stay tuned for that. But the gameplay is about what you'd expect from the Civilization games. I've been playing these games obsessively since probably Civilization 3, way before Steam. And if you combine all the hours I've played on just Steam, it's at around 2,000 hours playing a Civ game of some type, some way, shape, or form. And I say on Steam because, yeah, I used to play the Civ games before there was Steam. Yes, I am that old. Anyway, I'm a veteran, experienced player of the Civ games, so let me break it down for you simply and concisely. Or at least I'm going to try to. I got a lot here. They allow you to have a general who can have an army attached to him, kind of like how armies were combined in the last game. But this time you actually get to see them march together on the map. Now that's pretty cool. And also, instead of building a district and then having to build like a library inside the science district or whatever, you just build districts, and the buildings are built automatically to help improve the city. And I also actually kind of really like this idea too. It kind of streamlines the process. There's deeper espionage in the game, a more intricate diplomacy than the last game, and a confusing way of expanding and developing your science and your culture. There was so much to take in that I'd struggle to explain it all fully and accurately here, but I mean, have you ever played Humankind? Yeah, this is Humankind with a civilization skin. There are dialogue options, big choices to make that affect your cities, and you get to pick different cultural or scientific or even legacy type bonuses during each stage of development or at the end of each stage of development to help you, develop your nation, just like in Humankind. And if you don't believe me, go watch my review of Humankind, because that's on my channel too. But other than the things I mentioned, it's pretty much what you'd expect from a Civilization game. Expand your borders, crush your enemies, rush your culture to expand your borders, and rush your science to get guns first and meet your objective. Next up for the positives is the stability. Now, I've learned not to trust AAA games, as they've lost the trust long ago, but surprisingly, the game actually ran rather smooth for me. I only noticed a few frame rate drops as I was playing, but they were very brief and barely noticeable. But the game never crashed, never froze, never clipped or broke or anything, so it was surprisingly very stable, which was a nice change of pace, and definitely helped the overall feel of the gameplay as I was experiencing it. And last but not least was the user interface, the UI. I personally liked it. I thought it was clean, well organized, easy to understand and navigate, and overall pretty self-explanatory, while also looking good for the particular time frame you're in, as well as just looking nice and being cohesive for you, the player. It wasn't overly complicated, and believe me, it could have been. But no, it was actually rather straightforward and simple. Just pause a moment and read is all. And that's all I got to say positively about the game. Now we got to go into the negatives. But before that, thanks so much for sticking around this long, and perhaps you would consider hitting that subscribe button and joining my royal guard. I mean, I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you're finding this video informative or helpful in any way, then please hit that bell. It'll let you know when I next put out a review, and I review all kinds of random games at all kinds of random times, and you never know when I might review a game you've been missing out on, so hit that bell and stay informed. Also, if you're wondering why my review might sound a little bit different today, it's because I'm actually holding back a lot because it's super late at night, and my family is sleeping, and I can't be as animated as I normally am. Now then, on to the things I didn't like about the game. Now, as a veteran Civilization player, I gotta be honest, I didn't like this game. I was not having any fun. It feels like to me they just combined their last game with that game Humankind I mentioned before. There's just a lot of things wrong with this, but I'm going to try my best to break it down in a way of surmising it and just keeping it easier to understand. And obviously I'm not going to be able to get into everything in under 10 minutes. I'm going to try my best, but let's just get started. So the first is at the start of the game. Like this, I'm going to start with the most glaring issue to me when I first entered. There was no option to set up your game. I mean, there kind of is, but it's really, really lacking. It's got very, very basic options for setting up the game you want. You can't choose victory conditions or even victory types that you want to focus on. You can't select endless mode, which means eventually the game will just end whether you want it to or not, whether you've accomplished your goal or not. You can't even choose the Earth map, which I simply don't understand why they keep leaving that option out and forcing modders to give it to us. Give me a damn realistic Earth map. That's all I want in these games, and I hate that they don't do that anymore. They used to do that. They don't have large-sized maps either. The map sizes they have are tiny, small, and standard, which to me is just really idiotic. You can't choose how many players are going to be in the map, or if there is a way to choose, I couldn't freaking find it, so I had no idea how many AIs I was playing with. They don't have any particular race or nation to choose from like their past 6 games. Now you just pick a person, and you kind of, sort of pick a civilization type, but not really. And then you kind of, sort of pick the map type that you want, but not really. Because like I said earlier, it's more like Humankind, where it's all just random, where you develop your nation as time goes on, and you don't even know what nation you're going for until you get there. So the options for this game are terrible. Oh, and you can't rename cities, by the way, which is also really stupid. I mean, why not, right? You already changed everything else. Why not just let us make up our own shit? So this was highly annoying to me when setting up the game as well. Next up for the negatives was the gameplay. Now, it's not all that bad, right? For the most part, it's good, but somehow they made the gameplay even more slow than the last game, which was my biggest complaint. Can you imagine, like everybody knows, anybody who's a fan of the Civ games know that once you get into the late game, it really starts to slow down because you've got these large empires all doing stuff. And now it's just as slow as that, but in the beginning of the game, I don't even want to fathom what it'll be like in the game in this one when it's already this slow in the beginning. And they added in a shit ton of new stuff that just makes the game far more complicated than it ever needed to be. The Civ games were never this complicated, and now we've got all these things to look at. Influence points, happiness, resources, districts, specialists, generals, legacies, different infantries, disasters, politics, random events, random legacy events, random cultural events, cultural landmarks, cultural buildings, cultural bonus buildings, cultural decisions, cultural types. I mean, holy crap. That's not even all the different things you need to be looking at in this game. There's just way too much for me to go into. It's way too complicated. And some of the best parts of the games from the past have been removed. For instance, your cities can't attack anyone anymore, or if they can, then I don't know how to unlock it, because my cities weren't able to shoot at anyone despite having defenses and troops stationed there. Cities are also a lot squishier. I lost my cities way too fast. The combat in this game is also awful. I mean, here I'm going to show you. I'm going to compare these two combat scenes, and you can tell me which one you think looks better and has more effort in it, because to me, this game failed in the combat and the combat animations. On the left, you're going to see combat from their last game, and on the right, you're going to see the combat from this game, and you tell me which one looks better. Also, remember how I said earlier that you could put troops in an army with a general and they'll look cool and move around the map and everything? Yeah, it's great, but they can't fight. That's right, you actually have to tell your army to leave the general formation before they can fight, which to me also sounds really dumb. I mean, don't most generals fight in the army? I mean, I don't mean the front lines, but not like this. Also, there's no builders in the game, at least not yet, not that I could find, and the only way to improve on any resource is to build a district on it. Not a huge deal, but builders did more than just improve on the tiles. They also built roads and defenses and harvested rare resources that were out of reach or didn't make sense to expand towards, or they would build other things that could help you out. You know, they could build a trade thing that could give you more gold or an extra farm where shouldn't be allowed to be built normally, but they can because science. So that's out, and now we don't have the builders to add that depth of play to the game. The game is also constantly throwing things in your face, little messages over and over again, despite you not needing that reminder for the 6th time that your city is being attacked. I got it. I understand it's being attacked. You don't got to keep telling me. And also, I got to point this out. Harriet Tubman as one of the leader options, seriously? Now, don't get me wrong, right? I love Harriet Tubman. What she did was amazing. But you expect me to play a game where Harriet Tubman is leading her own nation of people through violence and war?
Here we meet. And I gotta ask myself, you gonna be my friend or my foe?
Really? How does that make any sense at all? She was a strong leader of a group of people within a country, but you expect me to believe that this peace-loving woman will lead a nation into war? I thought we were done with the ridiculousness of Gandhi being a warmonger, but I guess not. So that was just ridiculous to me. I have a lot of issues with this gameplay, but I suppose the biggest ones are how slow the game moves, how overly complicated it is, how a lot of things just don't really make sense in terms of the gameplay, or how they decided to basically remake the game Humankind and just call it Civilization. I didn't want to play Humankind, I wanted to play Civilization, and it's just not a Civilization game anymore. It's Humankind 2.0. Also, look at this dialogue exchange between the two games.
Eu mei iem rimat shautiu empaiter.
Next up for the negatives is the graphics. Now, I'll be honest, this is probably the least offensive negative. Overall, the game looks good, but it's lacking in variety of colors or good contrast. For instance, what you're going to be looking at right now, I'm going to show you is my current early kingdom, and tell me if you can find my army. Is it over here? Or is it over there? Or is this it? Nope, that's a scout. Oh, there it is. Only when I move them can you see them. Hard to find them in a map like this. Yes, it's got a lot of attention to detail, but without good contrast or differentiating markers, it's very hard to locate the specific things you're trying to find, and that just makes me frustrated. Overall, I think they just jammed way too much in here and tried to shove it all onto your screen at once, which ended up making it very ugly, very cramped, and very hard to find the one thing you're looking for. Like I said, it's not awful, but it's not great either. But I do want to make special mention of the attention to detail because it does have its amazing moments, but don't even get me started on the wonder completion. It's laughably lackluster. Again, another comparison simply between this game and the last game. On the left is what happens when you complete a monument in the last game, and on the right, this is what you get. Yay. Ooh, look at the little confetti. Yay. But, okay, so honestly, that's all I can really say negatively about the game. And as you may already know, this is all my own opinion. But overall, what do I think about the game? I mean, it's got mixed reviews on Steam, so I could go either way, right? Well, it's really hard for me to say. I love the Civilization games, but this just isn't a Civilization game. It's lost the heart and soul of why the Civ games were popular, and it just doesn't have the same refreshing, quick-paced, simple grand strategy Civilization simulation game. Now, it's all about the in-depth intricacies of the development of a nation, which would be fine if it hadn't already been done a few times by other games and wasn't typically what they were known for doing. Basically, there's a reason why the reviews on Steam are mixed. It's because the game just isn't as good as its predecessors. It's too slow, it's too complicated, it's just throwing way more at us than the fans are used to, as well as not being what we were expecting from a Civ game. Is it doing anything inherently bad? Well, other than some mechanics not really making sense, no, not really. As a longtime Civ fan, I'm probably a little biased against this game, despite me always trying to be neutral. But when I go into a Civ game, I'm expecting a Civ game, not something else. Overall, the graphics aren't terrible, the stability is great, the sound is great, the gameplay is average, as is the user interface and the controls. It also has a lot of new features that are actually interesting and well thought out, and nothing seems to be completely out of left field. I mean, in my own personal opinion, if you're a fan of Civilization games and wanted a new one, then this is not that. Don't even bother, just go play one of the older ones. But if you're just looking for a grand strategy game, or you're new to the series, then sure, it's not doing anything inherently wrong, it's just not a Civ game, and it's definitely not worth $70. I mean, for $70, I better get what I paid for. And I paid for a Civ game, not a Humankind game. So obviously, I was very disappointed. But as I said, it's still not technically doing anything wrong. It's just not what I wanted. All right, so take that however you wish. But that's all the time I got for today, everybody. Super sorry this video went on way longer than it should have, but I had a lot to say about this. Like I said, longtime fan of it, so I just couldn't let it go. But thanks so much for watching, with a special thanks to those of you who stuck around to the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.